The night of June 22nd, 1978, Air Force Tech Sergeant Melvin Lorenz, his wife, Staff Sergeant Lorenz, and their 12-year-old son, Richard, were heading to North Dakota to attend Melvin's mother's funeral. Around 3 a.m., they noticed a woman standing next to a vehicle with the hood popped open. So they stopped to help. It was a trap. Roger Stafford and his brother Harold were hiding behind the vehicle, armed. And when Melvin refused to give up his money, Roger shot him. As Linda ran to help her husband, the woman standing next to the vehicle, Verna Stafford, who was Roger's wife, knocked Linda down, and then Roger shot her. Richard, who was still in his parents' vehicle, cried out for help. Roger then stuck his gun into the window and shot Richard. Richard was driven down the road, still alive, some of the prosecutors claimed, and dumped about half a mile away from his parents. When Roger was finally caught, he was sentenced to death, and Verna was sentenced to 10 years to life, hoping to be released after resentencing. This story I received off newsok.com, written by Juliana Keeping, titled Stolen Lives. And my topic is on capital punishment. The problem we're facing is that the death penalty isn't as common as it used to be. And now we're facing a problem where criminals, as bad as the Staffords, and some even worse, are being released back into society because of prison overcrowding, even though they were sentenced to life. According to an article on WashingtonPost.com, written by Peter Hawley, it states that Malcolm Benson was released for good behavior after spending 19 years behind bars after pleading guilty to second-degree murder in 1995. 9 months after his release, Benson shot and killed Stanley Carter, a 59-year-old Army veteran. And police also state that he sexually assaulted a woman near the shooting. Another story on a nurse, and when you think about nurses, you don't typically think of them as the dangerous murdering type, but Janine Jones wasn't your average nurse. She was known as the Angel of Death, and she is allegedly responsible for more than 60 deaths of children while working as a nurse in San Antonio, Texas. According to an article on TexasMonthly.com, written by Peter Elkin, Jones was sentenced 99 years in 1984 for murdering a 15-month-old child by injecting her with a paralyzing muscle relaxant and injuring another child with a blood thinner injection. She was scheduled for mandatory release on parole due to the overcrowding. Is that fair? So what are the causes for the death penalty to not be utilized anymore and allowing prisons to overcrowd? Well, there's two major causes. There's a lot more. But two of the main ones are that some of the states have deemed it unconstitutional and too expensive. And on procon.org, it says that the relevant legal standard is the standard set forth in the Eighth Amendment. The Constitution therefore forbids the infliction of cruel and unusual punishments, deeming capital punishment unconstitutional. So they're saying it's unfair and cruel and unusual to the criminals it's being utilized on. And another article by James Jeffrey, written for BBC.com, stated, since 1976 and the U.S. Supreme Court upholding capital punishment, 1,468 people have been executed in the U.S. This shift in opinion follows decades of death penalty use during which it has proven exorbitantly expensive compared to putting someone in prison for life, ineffective in making society safer, while open to manipulation by ambitious prosecutors and old-fashioned human error. So basically they're saying here that it's cheaper to put them away for life, and that it hasn't made society safer. But releasing them back into society when one of these individuals gets out, are we really safe? So where do we go from here? In cases like the ones I mentioned, should they be allotted freedom after the atrocities they committed? Once Benson was released, he killed again. And what's to stop any of the other ones from doing the same thing? And in certain cases, it seems like the benefits outweigh the costs in capital punishment. And if the death penalty would have been used on Benson, he wouldn't have been able to kill again. The death penalty itself gives a mental closure and a fresh start for the victims of those violent crimes. And this includes the innocent children robbed of a loving parent or their parents by the hands of evil, and by the parents who lost their children to people such as the angel of death. How do you think these families feel knowing that after a period of time, those who took everything from them have the chance to receive parole? Or that as they sit there and grieve and suffer, that these individuals sit the rest of their lives getting free medical, 3 meals a day, and free amenities. The victims' families are experiencing severe grief and stress because of irreparable loss. So in conclusion, I have listed the problem that since the death penalty isn't being utilized and prisons are overcrowding, some of these horrid people are being released back into society. And the causes are that states have deemed it unconstitutional to use and too expensive. And a solution is that in certain cases, it seems more reasonable to use the death penalty than to just let these people back out on the streets. Thank you.